Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial about how to use the Somnium Space Avatar SDK. You will learn how to set up and upload your own avatars to the game and be able to use them. So what is the Avatar SDK? It is a downloadable package provided by Somnium Space that will let you upload your own avatars into the game. You can even tokenize them on the blockchain if you want to sell them for cryptocurrency. For this tutorial, we will focus mainly on the Unity SDK. This is not a tutorial on how to create your own model and rig. Here are the timestamps to all the chapters we'll go through. With that out of the way, let's get started! Downloading the SDK and setting up Unity. The first step will be to download the SDK, but if you don't have Unity yet, I'd recommend doing the latter first. To get the required version of Unity, we'll download two things. The first will be Unity Hub. It will come in useful in the future if the SDK's Unity version gets updated. Go to unity3d.com/get-unity/download and press the Download Unity Hub button. When it finishes downloading, you can install it like any other program. When you first set up Unity Hub, you can skip the account creation process, unless you want to use dynamic bones on your avatars, for which you need your account with a license on it. The second will be the Unity version itself. We can go to the same link we use for Unity Hub, but this time add /archive at the end. Once you go there, you'll see a ton of Unity versions, but it's quite easy to find the one we need right now. Scroll down a little bit and you'll find a couple tabs like Unity 2018.x, Unity 2018.x, etc. Click on 2018.x, scroll down a little bit and find Unity 2019.2.4. To install it, just press the button that's labeled Unity Hub. And this is why we installed Unity Hub first, because we'll be able to manage all of our Unity versions in one place. As you may have guessed, Unity Hub will show up with an installation window. If you want the installation to be as light as possible, because maybe you just want it for the Avatar SDK, you can uncheck pretty much everything in this window. But I'd recommend keeping the Android support checked, because it might be needed in the future for Quest Avatar support. Then, simply press Install. While this is installing, let's go download the SDK. The SDK is downloadable through the official website, somniumspace.com, and a link to it will be available in the description of this video. Once finished downloading, it should pop up in your downloads folder. You are now ready to start installing the SDK. Creating the Unity project and setting up the upload scene. Now that everything is finally installed, let's set up the SDK. We'll first create the Unity project. So first, go in Unity Hub and select the Projects tab. Locate the New button, and in case you have multiple Unity versions, click the little arrow next to it. This will let you select which version to create this project in, so select 2019.2.4 F1. Be sure that the selected template is set to 3D, name your project whatever you want, select the destination folder that will hold your project, and press Create. After Unity is done preparing some stuff in the background, you will end up on an empty scene. Because of my 4K screen, your window layout may be a little different than mine, but what I have here should be similar. If you want to have the exact same layout as me, go to the complete top right, click the rightmost drop down and select the default layout. Your screen should look like mine. Before doing anything else, let's now import the SDK. Open up your Windows Explorer and go to where you downloaded the SDK. It should be by default in the Downloads folder. And all you have to do is double click on it. In Unity, it will prompt you to import assets. Click All at the bottom left and then Import at the bottom right. The SDK should now be imported. If the import was successful, you will notice a lot of different folders that just appeared. Also, a login screen will appear once the import is done. I'd recommend logging into your Somnium Space account in this window first before doing anything else. Just enter your Somnium Space account credentials and press Login. You should now be good to go. We'll first enter the upload scene, which is situated in the Scenes folder. Go inside this folder and double-click Upload Scene. You will now notice that the scene view has changed to a room with an avatar on a pedestal. Now's a good time to learn the basics on how to look around in the scene view. If you hold right-click in the scene view, you can look around by moving your mouse, and move the camera using the WASD keys. Scrolling the mouse wheel while moving around like this will make the movement faster or slower. If you start by holding Alt first, holding left-click will spin you around a point, holding right-click will let you zoom in and out, and holding middle click will make you strafe. Importing a rig and its textures. Now that Unity is set up and you know how to look around, let's import an avatar. For now, you should only use avatars with a humanoid bone structure. but this may change in the future with the addition of custom animation references. There are websites online where you can buy avatars or even download some for free. But note that if downloading an avatar from someone else, you might not be able to resell them on the blockchain later due to copyright. If you try to tokenize and sell them, they might end up disabled and their thumbnail will be updated to say that it has been taken down. So be careful. Though if you are an avatar creator, you can easily make and export your characters as FBX files from your modeling software and use them instantly in the SDK. If you have created avatars for other similar games before, they can be transferred without changing anything in your bone setup. The game will automatically calculate your bone rolls and positions to match the animations accordingly. Make sure in your modeling software that the armature is at the origin of the world, your feet are aligned with the floor, and that the scale of all your objects are 1. This will ensure that the avatar behaves correctly in-game. Also, be sure it is in rest pose before exporting, and export it as FBX with only the required objects. We don't want curves, camera, or extra lamps on our avatars because that might impact performance a lot. And those are going to be rejected anyway by the whitelist. Let's go back to Unity. Return to the Assets folder and now enter the Models folder. This is where you should drop your models in. First, right-click and create a new folder that will hold all assets of your model. This isn't required, but it is a good practice to organize all of your files. Enter this new folder and create 2 new folders, Materials and Textures. Again, this is for organization purposes. Now, let's drop our avatar in the project. If you have downloaded a model as a compressed folder because it has multiple assets, extract them to another folder outside of the Unity project. Find the model file and drag and drop it inside your model's Unity folder. The file type should be something like FBX. It is my preferred file type personally. If your model has textures, drop them inside the model's texture folder in Unity. On those textures, I recommend selecting all of them in Unity, going in the inspector on the right and select the texture type Sprite 2D and GUI. You may also have normal maps. If you do, select the texture type Normal instead. Your model should now be imported in Unity. Now let's set it up. Setting up a humanoid rig. The most important part is to set your model as a humanoid avatar. This will ensure that the game's animation system can map character animations correctly and enable head and hand tracking, and in the future, full body tracking. To set up the humanoid rig, select your model in Unity, go in the inspector on the right and select the Rig tab. If the animation type is not set to humanoid, open up the drop-down of animation type and select humanoid. Press Apply, wait for Unity to finish loading up the rig, and then go to Configure. This menu might look a little daunting at first, but it's relatively simple. This is just to be sure that each bone of your model is properly mapped to the humanoid rig. For example, your hip bone should be mapped to the hip reference, or whatever the name is for this bone. Usually, all of this is done automatically without too much to change. Sometimes it's spot on, but sometimes it isn't. If you aren't experienced in rigging and or have downloaded a model that might have a confusing hierarchy, just be sure that at least in body and head sections, everything with a full circle is green and mapped. If it has a dashed circle, it isn't required for the rig to work. Once this is done, press Apply and then Done. Your humanoid rig should now be ready. Setting up the materials. For your character to display properly, you will have to set up some materials. They tell how your model should be shown on screen using a set of parameters from what is called a shader. To make assigning materials easy, select your model again and go back in the inspector. Now, go in the Materials tab and click Extract Materials. Navigate to the Materials folder you've created earlier and confirm. All of the model's materials will be extracted in this folder and automatically assigned. Note that the less materials your character has, the more performant it will be. Now let's set up each material. If you want, you can go back in the Scenes folder and enter the sample scene. Then, drop your model in the Hierarchy tab. This is just to preview the shading of your materials because right now the upload scene is covered in shadows because it is a closed room. By having your model in this scene, you'll be able to preview your materials correctly. You can then go back into your Materials folder. In your Materials folder, select one and you can start playing with its parameters in the inspector on the right. If at the top the shader is not set to Standard, open up the drop-down and find and click Standard. Now, if you have textures, this is where you drop them. If you are not an advanced user, You can just drop the color texture into the albedo slot and it will be perfectly fine. If your texture is transparent, in the rendering mode, select Cutout. You can try transparent, but the shadows may not display correctly in-game, or even at all. The difference between transparent and cutout is that in transparent mode, you have the full range of opacity, so you can have like half opacity, but you may not have shadows with this. In cutout, you'll have full shadows, but your transparency can either be 1 or 0, so either fully transparent or fully opaque, nothing between. If you know what you're doing, or you wanna try anyway, you can try and play with the other parameters as well. If you have a metallic plus smoothness map, black and white for metallic and transparent for smoothness, all on a single texture, drop it into the metallic slot and adjust the intensity slider if needed. If you have a normal map, usually completely blue with slight shades of other colors, drop it onto the normal slot and adjust the intensity slider if needed. These are the types that are the most used, but some other textures like occlusion could be available. Repeat this for each of your materials and they should now be ready. If you went to the sample scene and don't want to add things like bone physics, particle system, trails, or anything else, drag and drop your entire avatar from the hierarchy window into your avatar's model folder. This will create a prefab that will be able to drop in the upload scene while keeping extra changes. From now, we can go back to the upload scene and skip to this timestamp. For the others, you can continue. Dynamic bones. Before uploading your avatar, you can also put some extra effects on it which aren't monetary, like trails, particles, audio sources, which are included with Unity, and tons of external documentation is available on them. We won't talk about every single one of them because of time constraint. But you can also use the third-party add-on Dynamic Bones for bone physics. The plugin costs $20, but for avatar creators like myself, it is a must if you want to add physics to your hair, clothing, tails, or whatever you want on your avatars. This avatar is going to be perfect because we got a ton of clothing that we may want to add physics on. This may end up as too many dynamic bones to be able to upload, but we can compromise. We first have to import the plugin into our project. To do this, in the tab group where the scene window is anchored, click on the Asset Store tab. You can also press Ctrl 9 to open it up. In the Search for Assets bar, look up Dynamic Bones and it should immediately appear as the first result. Click it, and if you haven't bought it yet, you will have an Add to Cart button where you can proceed to buy the asset. You'll then be able to go view and import it from the My Assets button at the top right. If you have an import button instead, you can import the plugin right away. The import process works the same as when you imported the SDK. Select All, Import. The plugin should now be in your project. Oh, and don't forget to go back to the scene view once you're done with the Asset Store. To add a dynamic bone, select the root object of the avatar, go in the inspector and click Add Component. Search for Dynamic, and the dynamic bone component is the one we want. You will notice a lot of options, but only some are useful in our case. For the root parameter, drag and drop the root bone in the hierarchy that contains all bones you want to add physics to. For instance, my hip bone, because all my skirts are rooted to this. But you may be asking, wait, isn't that gonna make the legs jiggle as well? There are exclusions. We'll talk about those later. From now, we can press the play button at the top of the window to adjust the physics. If the game window shows up in full screen, that's because the SDK thinks we're uploading, but we aren't. This will be patched, but for the moment, if it does this to you, go at the complete top right of the window, press the tiny arrow with 3 lines next to it, and uncheck Maximize. Then, go to the tab group and go back to the Scene one. You can now continue navigating the scene with your mouse and WASD keys. Try to select bones and objects in your hierarchy and move them. Pressing W will pull out the Move tool and pressing E will pull out the Rotate tool. R is for scaling, but we don't need that in our case. Move stuff around and you should notice some physics happening on the bone hierarchy you've set the dynamic bones component's root to. If you go back to the component, you can adjust the damping, elasticity, stiffness, and inert for different kinds of behavior. If you want some gravity to pull your bones in a certain direction, you can change the X, Y, and Z forces in the gravity parameter. Also, remember when I talked about exclusions? Well, if you go a little lower, you'll find a little exclusions field. If you put the size to more than 0, you will notice some more fields appearing, and in those, you can put some bones that you don't want to affect. In this case, I don't want to affect the legs or the spine, and this will also affect the children of those. For example, since the feet are connected to the legs, they won't be affected. Once you are happy with the result, before exiting play mode, go to the little gear icon at the top right of the dynamic bone component and press Copy Component. Once you've done that, you can now exit play mode safely. Now, go back to the gear icon of the component and press Paste Component Values. This will put back your dynamic bone to what it was before leaving play mode, basically keeping all of your changes. There are some other aspects of the plugin we could explore, but we don't have time for this tutorial and they're not really useful in our case. Some tutorials are available on YouTube, and the official documentation is available at the root of the plugins folder. You can now add as many dynamic bones or particle effects or whatever as you wish, staying under the upload limits of course. Under the SDK's official documentation, you have a list of all of the guidelines to follow. You can have up to 4 warnings and you can't have any errors, else your avatar can't be built and uploaded. When you're done adding your bonus elements, you can now create your prefab by dragging and dropping your finished avatar in your avatar's project folder. We can then go back to the upload scene. Building and uploading your avatar. It is now finally time to upload our avatar. From now, we are going to use the Avatar's SDKs tool to properly adjust our model for the upload process. Take your prefab that you've created and drop it in the hierarchy under the object Model Pivot, which has a lovely tag saying to drop your model in it. Next, select your avatar, go in the inspector, press the gear icon at the top right of the Transform component, and press Reset. This will recenter the origin of your model at the center of the pivot. If your avatar ends up higher or lower, it might not work as expected in-game. You can try moving it up and down to fix it, but this has not been tested. If you're the creator, you can go back in your 3D modeling software to see if your armature's origin is set to the feet of your avatar. If not, then fix it and re-export it. If your avatar ends up too big or too small, you can select its model in the Products tab, go in the Inspector, go in the Models tab, and change the scale factor. If you change the scale of the avatar already in Model Pivot, it might not have the expected results in-game. Pro tip, if you want to hide an avatar already on the pedestal, select it in the hierarchy, go in the inspector, and uncheck the checkbox next to its name at the top. We can now start setting up the avatar's parameters. At the root of your avatar, go in the inspector and add an avatar config component. You can search up avatar and it should be the first one popping up. You'll have a couple parameters that you can set, but the most important one is the camera viewing position. You can change the X, Y, and Z values of where you want your point of view to be when wearing the avatar. I'd recommend setting the view position to the eye level of your avatar. You can see a preview with the blue camera's outline in a scene view. Little tip, if you feel that the headset image of the preview is a little bit too big, you can go in the toolbar of the scene view, click the little arrow next to gizmos, and adjust the 3D icon slider. If you put it lower, the icons will be smaller and vice versa. Keep the asset bundle type to avatar since the rest isn't available yet when making this tutorial. The asset bundle type and gender fields will help you select your avatar later when you'll be going in the PC client. The last drop-down field will let you select a lip syncing type. If you have a jawbone available and set in your bone hierarchy, you can select the jaw type and drop the jawbone inside the jawbone field a little lower. If your mesh has a blend shape for lip syncing, you can select the type morph, drop in the next field your mesh, and select the blend shape to use in the final drop-down. This avatar doesn't have any, so it isn't useful here. You can also add in a custom animator reference for custom animations, but this isn't done yet at the moment of making this tutorial. We are now ready to release this avatar into the world. Right-click your avatar in the hierarchy, go to Somnium SDK, and click Build and Upload. You will be prompted with a window detailing all of the components of your avatar and also the final poly count of it. Remember, if you have more than 4 warnings or at least 1 error, you'll have to go back and fix them. If everything is fine, you can press the Build button. Unity will build your avatar's package and then enter play mode. From the UI that just appeared, you can name your avatar, add a description to it, and set it either public or private. If the camera angle isn't right for you, you can click the little camera button at the top left of the preview to access the movement controls, which are the same as when we are in the scene view, apart that you have to hold the left mouse button instead of the right one. In the current version of the SDK, if you want to save the preview, you'll have to click the camera button again to take the screenshot, as the text next to it says. This is going to be changed in the future, so when you press upload, the camera preview will be saved automatically. Once you are ready, you can agree to the terms and conditions, and then press upload. You should then receive a confirmation message saying that your avatar has been uploaded. You can press OK and Unity will leave play mode. To be sure it has uploaded successfully, go to the menu item Somnium SDK at the top and select Manage Uploaded Content. In there, you'll see anything that you have uploaded like inventory objects, buildings, and avatars. There's also a little number besides the tab's name saying how many items have been uploaded of this type. In this case, Unroll Avatars. And there it is, here's our avatar. If you focus on one of them, you'll be able to see its thumbnail, its creator, if it is public or private, a button to make it public or private, and a delete button if you want to delete it from your servers. And I guess now it's time to go in the PC client to see how to apply your avatar and then use it in-game. Downloading the PC client and using your avatar. Now that our avatar is online, we can now go select it from the PC client. But first, we have to install the PC client. So go to somniumspace.com and click the download button at the top right of the page. This will download the Somnium launcher, which includes the PC client and also the VR client, so both are at the same place. Once it's downloaded, install the Somnium launcher as you would with any other software. Agree to all terms and conditions and log in using your Somnium Space account credentials. Once you're logged in and all updates are done, click the PC client button to open up the PC client. Once the PC client is open, go at the tabs at the bottom and select the Avatar one, and the window will change to the Avatar selection screen. This window contains a lot of options. At the top, you can select a type of avatar, like Somnium, Oculus, and Custom, which will be your custom avatars. So already you can use the arrows to select the custom type. Now if you look on the left of the screen, you'll see all of the avatars you have uploaded, which is why keeping the asset bundle type to avatar was important. On the left of the avatars, you see a couple different categories in case you want to categorize them. A little higher you'll see avatar name, where you can change the name of the avatar. A little on the right, you'll see two filters for male and female avatars, which is why setting the gender type of the avatar was important. And then finally, a little on the right again, you'll have a Use This Avatar button, which will officially set the avatar you've selected as your avatar. But before setting our avatar, let's go on the right of the window, because you can do a little more changes to your avatar, like do some painting on it, put some textures on it, or even deform it. You can also edit its bones and the animations. Once you're happy, go at the bottom right and press Avatar VR Preview to preview your avatar in a little VR environment. And once you're ready, press Use This Avatar and then click Enter Somnium Space. So I'll press this and I'll see you as my custom avatar in game. Alright guys, so I am in game, and as you can see, I am wearing the custom avatar that we just made. Just so you can see it a little easier, I'll be placing the tablet camera in streaming mode right here. There you go. So yeah, our avatar is there. As you can see, all of the dynamic bones we've put are working, so the skirt, the hood, everything. And it's not just dynamic bones, you can put trails, you can put particles, you can put audio sources, whatever you want, as long as it doesn't eat too much performance, and as long as you respect the criteria for uploading. So yeah, have fun making your own avatars, and I'll see you in game with your avatar.